first of all, thanks for the kind invitation. For me, it's a great honor being here. I will not bother you so that we will be right to the coffee break soon, okay, guys? So, I will give you a little bit introduction about me. So, Roberta showed you our university, where we come from. So, we belong to the pharmacy department. But what I did before, so I got my master's degree in chemistry and pharmaceutical technologies in 2017 at the University of Camerino, and Roberta was one of my actually supervisors during my master's thesis. And afterwards, I started my PhD program, and I was graduated last year in 2023. And I started in Italy, so I spent the first year at the University of Camerino, and then I decided to start my internship abroad, and then I moved to the Utrecht University, which is located in the Netherlands, and I spent there the last 3-4 years, and afterwards I came back. Nowadays I'm a postdoc in the research group of Roberta, and these are a few of our lab mates in the lab. And why I'm here today to give you my presentation is because I'm part of the research unit of the University of Camerino that works in the LIFE project, and my role in this project is the project management committee member, and I'm also the contact person of the University of Camerino. So as Roberta already introduced you, we were involved in many activities. Surprisingly, we had also a high number of participants, and we worked with the kids. This is just a table game, but also with high schools and general public. So we had a chance also to involve many stakeholders. So we heard from the past presentation that mercury is a problem, and the presentation I will give you today is why mercury was used as a pharmaceutical compound, because today we learn, okay, it's toxic, so why we use to treat ourselves. And for this, I will share with you the outline of my presentation. So mercury in pharmacy, historical content, I will not bother you, just one slide. And then the case studies of we were able to understand why mercury was afterwards toxic. And last but not least, the recommendation of future research. So what we can do, what the pharmaceutical companies can do, and then of course conclude my presentation. So mercury in healthcare. So mercury possesses intrinsic properties due to pharmaceutical properties and also chemical properties. Was used in medical devices and also as a component in drugs. However, over the time, we found out that there was a growing awareness of its toxicity. And that's why, for instance, we learned that we had a lot of regulations still ongoing, and not least the leader one is the Minamata Convention. And we have to be extremely careful if we want to use mercury, especially to produce drugs. So the transition highlights basically the importance of developing safer alternatives to protect the public health. So during the presentation, I will give you some names of the drugs that we use to treat ourselves. You might still find in your houses, so keep an eye, just take a note, and please don't use them, okay? So, pharmaceuticals that contain mercury. So, mercury has been used massively to produce drugs. The first one, actually class of pharmaceuticals that was studies to use mercury was the antiseptic compounds, then as a preservative in vaccine, and then preservatives for other type of formulations. I will share with you 3 case studies. The first one, I think is well known not only in Italy, but maybe also in Poland, is the use of Mercurochrome. So Mercurochrome was used as an antiseptic containing mercury, more specifically is the mercury dibromofluorescein, and was used for minor cuts and abrasions. So you might have seen this one because it's liquid, it's red, and as soon as you damage yourself, you go to the pharmacy, they normally give you this compound. However, due to toxicity related to lot of restriction, including, of course, European country. So from a regulatory point of view, actually we found out that this one is toxic not so long time ago, only in the 21st century, and European Union member states and the leaders were, in this case, France and Germany. They decided to put bans and put regulation on the use of Mercurochrome as an antiseptic formulation due to the risk of mercury poisoning. And, well, actually, these impact a lot the use of this compound for our healthcare. So far, nowadays, this is the slide that I'm going to show you now. It's a little bit fun, because we still have in Italy, the name is basically similar. I don't know if it's the case in Poland. I tried to find in Google, I couldn't find, so maybe you're lucky they changed the name. So we still have in Italy, it's called new Mercurochrome, but there is no mercury inside. So they change all the molecules inside. So in this, it's still antiseptic formulation. We do have eosine, chloroxenol, and propylene glycol. It's still red. I don't know why they wanted to keep the same name, probably because the elderly people are still convinced that the old Mercurochrome worked, so they say, okay, let's put new Mercurochrome, but actually it doesn't deal with it. So I don't know if you have something similar in Poland, but it's very fun. So the second case study, actually, there is a lot of debate behind the use of this compound. It's thimerosal, and was used in vaccines. So it was used as a preservative, and keep in mind that it was used as a preservative in multi-dose vaccine. And the molecule that contained this excipient actually is ethyl mercury. What they found out, so basically, by administering vaccine containing thimerosal, they found out that actually there were neurodevelopment disorders in children. Why? Because this compound was used as a stabilizer for childhood vaccine. So it was very, very toxic, but we didn't know at the time. And this condition was rising not only in Europe, but also in the United States. What has been done? So the European Medicine Agency found out in the early 2000s, so also here, not so long time ago, that actually it was better to remove thimerosal as a stabilizer in the childhood vaccines. And, well, I didn't put in the slide, but I can share with you today. There are a lot of rumors, because sometimes, and also speculation, I would say, because a lot of people say that actually thimerosal, which contained mercury, actually was the cause of autism in children. So far there is no evidence, so that's why I didn't put in the slides. And all the scientific community agreed that the use of thimerosal didn't trigger any autism effect in the children, but it was discontinued. So nowadays you cannot find thimerosal in vaccine anymore. So the last case study that I will show you today about pharmaceuticals containing mercury are, I put it together, phenyl mercury compounds. Actually there are two. Is a phenyl mercury acetate and a phenyl mercury nitrate. So those two chemicals were used also in this case as preservatives for two different pharmaceutical formulations, which are the ophthalmic solution and the nasal sprays. So in this case, when you have eye drops or nasal spray, you might overdose, not just because it's difficult to control the administration over time. And what they found out is that the prolonged exposure of this compound also was linked to a significant health risk due to the presence, of course, of mercury. And for these reasons, actually, in this case, we woke up a little bit earlier because they found out that these components were toxic in 1970s. And the European Economic Community decided to put restriction on the use of phenyl mercury compounds. And after 10 years, most of the European countries decided to stop to use this compound for the formulation of eye drops and nasal sprays. So these were just 3 examples of the pharmaceuticals containing compound that So for the vaccine, for sure, it's not possible to find them anymore, but for instance, for the Mercurochrome, we might still at home, so keep an eye, please. But then I would like to switch to the medical devices. So I will not bother you with a common example of thermometer. You know, the old thermometer has mercury. The old blood pressure gauge has mercury, but you might not know that actually also dental amalgams contain mercury. So if you go to the dentistry, also double check. It's forbidden to use it, but we know that there are some doctors that still use the old-fashioned one simply because they're cheaper. So why this is important to actually control? Dental amalgams, they're commonly known as silver fillings. So not you, but maybe your parents or grandparents might have this one in their mouth. And it's called silver because it's shining, and it's due to the intrinsic properties of mercury. And was actually very helpful because it was used as a dental restoration to fulfill, for instance, the holes after the surgery of the doctor. But basically, they found out that this one is toxic. Wow and high. So this is the picture of removal of dental amalgams containing mercury. And you might wonder why this was toxic. Well, basically, no matter if it was during the placement, during the removal, or due to the degradation of the fillings, there is something important that comes out, which is the mercury vapor. So actually at one point, all the patients that were actually in contact with this kind of dental amalgams, they asked to go to the doctor and remove, but the removal was very tricky. So has to be done in a safely manner. So as you can see here, normally when you go to the dentistry, you might have the suction device for the saliva and then all the tools. But in this case, we have another two additional instruments, which is the Horton vacuum to suck all the mercury vapor and also the suction barrier, so that just in case everything is protected, because this is not only the problem for the patient but also for the doctor, because the exposure of the vapor is also extremely risky for the doctor themselves. So in this case, a full ban was established in 2009. Leaders for the ban of dental amalgams containing mercury were Sweden and Norway. But overall, all the European Union decided to follow them and to stop the use of mercury-containing dental amalgams. And why this was also relevant? Because scientists found out that high accumulation of mercury in our body goes to the brain. And there is a link of the onset of neurodegenerative disease such as dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's extremely important not to use mercury for pharmaceuticals or also for medical devices. So far, we have an alternative. This is just a picture. These are the old-fashioned mercury-containing amalgam fillings. Nowadays, the company decided, of course, to change. So if you go to the dentistry nowadays, you should deal with the composite fillings, which actually are raising. So even from an aesthetic point of view, it's better because they're white, but they're biocompatible and they're not toxic at all. So there is a safe plan B. So also if you go to the dentist, keep an eye. They should use the composite fillings and not the amalgam fillings. So all of these, of course, was followed by the Minamata Convention. You heard many times about this convention. Started to take place in 2070s. And of course, the European Union, they decided to follow this convention, put significant regulatory measures, including the phase down of mercury in the healthcare. So in the pharmaceuticals containing mercury, but also in medical devices. But now let's change our point of view. What about the pharmaceutical companies? So after Minamata Convention, they had to change everything. They have to stop the use of mercury and they have to find alternatives. it was very difficult for them, not only from a research point of view, but mostly from economic point of view. So I will just give you 3 examples of companies that had to change their practice in order to follow the Minamata Convention. They're just example. I'm not sharing any kind of publicity or whatever. I'm not taking money. It was just because they uploaded their information in the internet, and I'm happy to share with you. So the first one is GlaxoSmithKline. So the GSK is very famous to produce vaccine, and actually before they used thimerosal, the one that if you remember, for the formulation of multi-dose childhood vaccine. So after the Minamata Convention, after the European regulatory requirements, they had to change their formulations. So what they did, they optimized the vaccine, so they decided to invest in a single dose vial, so reduce also the exposure to the children of this vaccine, and then they developed a thimerosal-free formulation. So for them it was a big step, but also for a safety point of view actually. They invested a lot, but they came out with a very good alternatives. The second company is AB. So if you Google it nowadays, you cannot find his name anymore, but because it is acquired by Mylan Corporation. But actually, AB, when it was a standalone company, actually was the one using the phenyl mercury compounds to produce nasal spray and eye drops. What they found out, they tried to use different preservatives, so they didn't use those compounds anymore, and they found safer alternatives for the 2 formulations that I mentioned before. The last company that I want to share with you and their practices actually are 2, but I combine together because they fall to the dental application. The first one is Septodont. They developed the mercury-free dental materials, and so basically the resins that I showed you before, the white ones, and they mostly focus on the biocompatibility and safety of the materials. The second one is a Swiss company, is Coltene, and they created amalgam separators, but most importantly they focus not only to the formulation of resins that do not contain mercury, but they also optimize a way on how manage the waste of the mercury-containing amalgams. So they decided to tackle the problem not only to provide new products, but also how to manage the old one. So this one was a very good example actually. So I'm very close to the end of my presentation, and so you go home, what you learned today? Mercury is toxic. We found out that other metals actually are also toxic. What we can do? So I try to, let's say, describe 3 different points of view. From our side, we try to expand the public awareness. We do a lot of campaigns, as you saw from the pictures, and if we go home, we need to take care of the pharmaceuticals that we take. Please take a look, because if mercury is not mentioned, it's okay. But if it's mentioned, keep an eye. And how we manage the pharmaceuticals containing mercury and other types actually of tools that contain mercury. So we need a lot of effort also from your side. From a company perspective, they need to invest in advanced technology. So how we can process all the things that actually I described before, so all the drugs that contain mercury and etc. And they also need to preserve the environment. I didn't put here, but actually it's important, because otherwise, if we process the mercury, but then we'll leave all the wastewaters in the sea, it's the same cycle. So it doesn't make sense. And the last one is for, the governments, for the European Union. We need to push for stricter existing regulation and try to push people, but mostly companies, to follow those regulations. So as Roberta also told you before, we can try our best as Italy, as Poland, as European Union to contain the mercury pollution, but if in the other side of the world they do not follow this regulation, well, the sea is the same. So the ocean is the same, and we might face the same problem. So it's very important to put this regulation not only in Europe, but should be worldwide. So, well, in conclusion, hope I was able to share with you some examples of mercury, why mercury was used before, and that is still used in some pharmaceutical compounds, but with a very, very low scale. And the European Union, for sure, invested a lot of energies to make progress on how to reduce the mercury in the pharmaceutical compounds, and also how to improve the waste management for our health. Still, the question is open. We can make for sure more progress, and we are trying our best, but of course the job is also for you guys. So try your best also to follow the rules and contain the mercury pollution. With this, well, I will remind you one more time that we have a lot of social networks, so please follow them if you're interested. And if you don't want to type, you can also take a picture of the QR code. This one is the QR code for the website, so that you can always be posted with all the activities that we do in Poland, in Italy, but also in the other side of the Europe, because this consortium actually is composed by also Greece, also Portugal, and other universities as well. So thank you all for your kind attention, and if you have questions, we can also discuss